staff at Kina'matnewey. Despite all of the times that we've had and that we've shared, it was a very successful year in 2021, 2022. So I'm proud to present the annual report to you. I do have a slideshow to share, but just as we share, I think just a little snippet of the opening remarks in the annual report. Mi'kmaq and Kina'matnewey, along with its 12 member communities, were recognized and awarded in May 2021 the Governor General Innovation Award of Canada. It's a very distinct and prestigious award. We accepted it virtually at the time in May 2021, and of course celebrating that throughout the year, and especially recognizing that again here today. So it's quite amazing how far we've come in education, how we continue to blaze the trail forward for other Indigenous folks and our partners alike. So it's very nice to share that information officially, I guess, on the annual report. Thank you. Yeah. Is it just a play? Perfect. Is there audio? Here's the video. Oh, probably.
Why did you win the award?
Mi'kmaq and Kina'matnewey won this award for creating an amazing learning environment for students like you that allow you to learn your Mi'kmaq language, your culture, and your identity. All students from all the 12 member communities receive the same education as you do. We start at a very early age in kindergarten or pre-kindergarten for you. And then we follow you along your education journey all the way when you're a grown adult.
What are the impacts of Kina'matnewey?
So over the past few decades, we've achieved a lot. I truly believe this is because we strive to support our students across the province by considering the needs of the whole person. We offer our community support in every way possible, academically, physically, mentally, and with technology. Because of this, our high school graduation rates are above 90%. Our literacy and numeracy rates have increased. We have more than 600 students enrolled in post-secondary institutions, and we've had our athletes go on to compete and win at national levels.
So basically, that was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to process what you said. I do know like that there's some that the government are doing with the Mi'kmaq. Is that right?
Yeah, we do it without the government. So our communities do a really good job delivering education, and they have for a very long time. And it is through your community of Sibiganegari who has been doing it also for a very long time. Your chief and council, your education director, your principals, and your teachers all work towards this vision of success for children like you all the time, all levels. All of that is a credit to your community. And so students like you in, let's say, Member 2 or Eskasoni have the same kind of support as well. So it is Mi'kmaq teaching Mi'kmaq.
We're basically teaching ourselves.
Absolutely.
How does it feel to win the award?
We are so honored to be chosen for this award. It feels great to be recognized for the work that we do to empower our communities. We wouldn't have won this award without kids like you, right?
Yeah.
So this award belongs to you.
And many other kids at the school.
And all of the kids at the school.
That was probably one of the funniest interviews we ever did. It was much longer. I think we spent about 20 minutes with it. And just, oh, I couldn't. But it was live because the Governor General's team had to be there as well. So we just had to like keep tracking. I think he's in grade 3. Yeah. He did rock it. So of course we had a vision of sharing all of our communities and testimonials, but at the time of May 2021, we were in spike number 6 or whatever it was at the time. So we really had to get creative and innovative. Certainly would have liked a face-to-face interview with the young fella here, but we had to do it virtually at the time. Oh, there's one more. Yes. Yep. Good to go. Graduation. Beautiful grads in their masks and some without. Last year was special because it kind of started the back in person kind of festivities.
Family got in. Good Lord. Who else?
245. 245. 250. 250.
300.
250.
Oh, can you throw back this one? One more. Of course, we want to officially recognize as well that in 2021, 2022, Bahankek opened its doors to its education center, and they had their grand opening. Special. YOLO. Next slide. Also want to congratulate one of our amazing leaders in education, Director of Education, Joanne Alex of the Wavell School, for being recognized with the Shaylee Nolan Award in 2021 for excellence in teaching. Congratulations, Joanne. Pretty amazing year. And special thanks to me, from the entire organization, and the Kina'matnewey Board of Directors too. My right hand, Patty Denny, where are you? It was her birthday yesterday. We have trivia night tonight. And Rebecca Barrington as well. Throwback, those slide before. Who has done an amazing job making sense of a lot of things for us. And obviously if I could have two right hands, Sarah Johnson, communications, she is making sure that all of this happens in a very organized way. Also don't want to forget the directors of it, the Mi'kmaq Kina'matnewey who lead their teams, who lead in excellence with our senior management team. I have Loretta Welsh. Oh, there's Loretta. Walalia Loretta. Alan McKenzie. Michelle Marshall Johnson. Oh, right there in the back. Jenny and Marshall. And Justine Paul. It has truly been a successful year. And of course, have a great team behind me, and certainly a lot of great work has gone into the work that we do. So that is it for my report, and then I'll turn it back to the chair and the agenda.
Big round of applause for Leslie, leading MK, Claudia Claire. Okay, up next, we have presentations of MK and the annual report. Department directors. So first will be academic service. And okay, Janine. All right, we're up. Nice start. Good.
Hi, everybody. I'm the Director of Academic Services, Janine Marshall, and I just wanted to share a few highlights from our very busy team. I wanted to share our logo for our department, and for those that have probably seen this before, it's in Hochesta Honorarium, and it represents sort of the vision of where our team went. Okay, perfect. So first things first, in terms of getting things started, I just wanted to take a minute to introduce our department and our team in terms of all the programs that they oversee and the work that they do. I have 8 leaders who kind of demonstrate raise their hands, stand up, take a bow. Gloria McCaskill-Hart, our community liaison. Sheldon Google, not today. Rebecca Sirocco, our wellness consultant. Anne Solomoy, our post-secondary consultant. Claire Muse, our post-secondary coordinator. Rebecca Barrington had many hats this year, one of which was supporting our Rpl coordinator position as well. Kyla Bernard, our elementary math consultant. Bob Crane, our secondary math consultant. Lauren Stevens is our new student services consultant. Cameron McNeil is our autism teacher specialist. Sheila Gould is our elementary literacy consultant. Brandon McCarthy, our secondary literacy consultant. And Jen Soller joined us towards the end of last fiscal as our STEM support. As you can see, big team, busy people, lots going on. So one of the things that we have done was we started the fall, sort of revamping better, building teamwork, and one of the things that we had the pleasure of doing was having a retreat in which we worked on strategic planning and professional development plans and all of those lovely things, but also important to celebrate our language and culture and have the opportunity to build from. So I'll be as brief as I can with each of our consultants and some of the things that they did. In a nutshell, a lot of differentiated teams. So just to put this in perspective, a whole year of trying to build professional development, virtually, in person, you name it. In terms of elementary literacy, so there was a core focus on the online workshops and chapters, which helped us with the reading community for new teachers, assistant teachers, expanding on their skills, enhanced resources for our collections, over into schools, differentiated resources to the parties to digitizing our classroom library. So the students themselves with academic text in front of them, they're more engaged to pick up the book, as I said, a lot of work on observational surveys that were digitized and uploaded into our NPS, continuous ongoing virtual community. I think it would be a message not for the community, in particular leaders our consultants in their professional learning. So thank you. And just a few pictures from elementary literacy, some drum making workshops and storytelling that happened. And it still feels weird to see pictures with folks with masks because it's nice to see faces again. In secondary literacy, there were ongoing Google Meets focusing on active learning strategies and taking the time for teachers to develop their craft as literacy leads and champions in our schools. Again, enhancement of resources for classroom libraries with an emphasis on strong Indigenous content from Indigenous authors. Professional development for ELA teachers, grades 7 to 12. These teachers met bi-weekly in the evenings, talking about their students and how to support curriculum. Individual conferencing and one-on-one coaching, lots of tea, lots of coffee, wherever teachers could meet when they could meet. Elementary literacy, quite busy this year. Kyla spent a lot of time identifying how to utilize WALTAs in the classrooms, and all of our elementary classrooms now have WALTA sets that were lovingly provided by various knowledge keepers from our communities. And in addition to that, there is a supplement that goes along with Aliette and how she discovers and works with numbers. So kids get to use technology as well as a very ancient and sacred game. Enhanced resource development around books. So writing our own books, utilizing math, and again, ongoing individual and group PD as well. And here's a lovely collage from elementary numeracy, making baskets. These are some of what the PD looks like for teachers. This is what some of the coaching sessions look like for students and teachers. In secondary numeracy, it was a big year in terms of onboarding and showcasing what Knowledge Hook and Homework Hub can offer to numeracy needs in the secondary math area.
developing lesson plans on math, incorporating culture, and utilizing and enhancing the support of PTech. They ran pilot projects with students to offer enhanced support to support their math needs. And every community is so unique, and there was support offered to some of our homeschool parents as well to how to support their students' mathematical needs in the secondary area. And here's a few highlights from the PTech program and Bob in front of the classroom. In terms of wellness, I think COVID really highlighted the importance of wellness and the importance to get outdoors, get moving, stay connected, whether it be virtually, through online contests and things like that. Engaging in cultural activities such as basket making and learning hands-on of making our jigumahan and medicine workshops and things like that. We also had an opportunity to partner with LSK and bring in world-renowned presenters like Jody Carrington, who identify that kids are amazing and that our students need more. She's very real, very frank, and she was part of a wellness conference, if you will, that was offered in a hybrid form. So most of our PD was in person, online in a hybrid format, and responsive to the ongoing concerns around ADHD, anxiety, OCD, bipolar, mental health. This year was a strong emphasis on working towards understanding complex trauma and building a lead team. Our kids have been through a lot. Our teachers have been through a lot. And trauma is quite real. And to build that capacity and understanding of evidence-based practices while utilizing our language and culture has been really key this year. And one in which many of our teachers and communities and schools have really responded very well to. And here's some of the pictures from some of the virtual challenges, wellness challenges that were held. It was quite amazing what submissions came through in terms of how people grounded themselves and found their wellness amidst the lovely pandemic. In student services and autism, we looked at conducting our own research and looking at some of the gaps around high-cost special education and some of the funding needs in terms of programming and such. Delivered various opportunities online, such as our Wantahodi, our mindfulness conference with Breathing Space, and in collaboration with partners such as Catherine Rahe. We were able to bring in, virtual isn't all bad. You don't have to fly these people in. You can Skype them in, you can Zoom them in. They operate on lots of wonderful platforms. And we were fortunate enough to have some really phenomenal world-renowned presenters this year to share their knowledge and expertise with our teachers, such as Kelly Mahler, and looking at the whole idea of interoception or body awareness. There was ongoing PD around autism and understanding challenging behaviors. We've heard loud and clear that dysregulated kids, they act out, and it's a form of communication, and teachers have been tremendously responsive to understanding what that behavior means and engaging in PD around challenging behaviors and methodology that supports these learners. Sorry. We were finally able to install one of our last few calming rooms in Pictou Landing and Allison Bernard Memorial High School. That project has been ongoing for a while, so to be able to say all of our communities have a calming space, it's amazing. And just here's a few different pics from what you see in the pictures there are sensory kits. So all different ways to utilize various fidgets and such to help kids get regulated and back in their bodies and feeling calm and restored. This year was also in terms of assessment. We had our newest schools taking part in provincial assessments, as well as being able to develop our own grade 7 assessment that will be piloted over the winter. A lot of work went in with our lead team and our writing team. They did a tremendous amount of work. And we were able to expand some of our services to look at STEM and how science and technology can be utilized more in our communities and schools. There was a huge amount of customization from communities, and I'm just going to touch on a few brief points. Your teachers worked in collaboration with Dave and Gloria and Miranda and many other consultants to develop 380 lesson plans to be part of a lesson plan bank. So, you know, when you're a teacher and you're in the classroom, making lesson plans takes a lot of time. Being able to network and share with your colleagues and have a huge bank to pull from has been tremendous. The ability to customize all of these report cards, but mirror the provincial report cards as well, and for parents to be able to access these report cards in a timely manner through our portal has been tremendous. All of these recommendations and customization pieces came from community and came from principals and happened in a few months, Dave? It was a lot. It was very, very fast. Again, ability. So, you know, the other thing to think about in terms of report cards and accessibility, we now have the ability for parents to be able to print and view their child's report cards through the parent portal. Our IEP report cards are also available through that. All of these customizations and access, parents have a tremendous way to engage in their child's learning this year, as well as their school staff. And a couple of questions to think about as we transition into the afternoon and other presentations is, you know, we still need to think about our whole student wellness and how these changes in education delivery have been affected during the pandemic, how these changes affect learning equity and environment, which students are enrolled in distance education and how are they participating. We learned a lot being able to deliver education this year in a variety of forms. So to be able to hear back from students is going to be important. And most importantly, what changes need to be made for our students to reach their true potential. And I'm going to turn it over to Anne to highlight our post-secondary. Allow me.
Hola, and Janine. Thank you, Janine. So very quickly, probably our most significant thing that we've done, I always struggle with this whole like fiscal year when we're reporting, is the GED. And we are super, super proud that we have been able to bring GED testing to your communities, to our communities. And that allows for any of our member communities and Millbrook and Friendship Center to have GED tests written in their own community. So with my team, and I'm claiming them as my team, Alex and Claire, we've been able to test, I believe, in Claire, 5 communities, 6, 10, 6. Okay, 6. And we've had one person be successful and they got their GED. So it's a lot of it's a lot of hard work, but it's really working from the heart. And you know, and these folks are you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in their lives, and we that project definitely we are working hard on and from our hearts. So I want to appreciate Claire and Alex on that because that's kind of extra work that I threw on them, and but we're doing good. So our RPL project is still going. Um, and we are, we've had RPL visits in more than those communities. And that's also important work because I think, you know, a lot of our communities have RPL is recognition of prior learning. And that's a project we put in with the province. And we want to do more work in getting those people that have lots of experience, lots of knowledge in a certain field. Doesn't have to be a trade. It could be a hairdresser, it could be a barber, but they've never been quote unquote certified. So we're doing some research to look at, we think anyways, best ways to get those individuals certified if that's what they want. So definitely that's, you know, I think really important research, and we'll eventually get to all of the communities by December 1 or something like that. Poor Rebecca. And Rebecca is, even though Blair claimed her, I had her first. Yeah. And so she's a tremendous, tremendous worker, and I appreciate all the hard work you do on the RPL, Rebecca. So we did again more work with the adults, and then just, you know, inviting them to any of our events that are looking at career optioning. We always include the adult learners in your communities. And we did our carpentry camp when everybody was shut down. We were like, nope, we're doing it. And so the kids made a little bee house for our native bees. And I was gonna do a bee colony, and Julian was like, "Oh my God, Ann, it's a lot of work." And I was like, "Okay, I'll hold off on that." I was like, "So they're all?" He's like, "They're all female." I'm like, "What?" It blew my mind. Anyways, thank God I didn't do the whole bee thing. But we built bee houses. So there are like about 10 kids in Sebeganegati. And so that for the native bees, because honeybees aren't native to Nova Scotia. So the little Onu bees. No, really, that's what they're called. They're called native bees to Nova Scotia. Onu bees. So we built them little houses. So that's where they go and they hibernate over winter. Is that correct? Right? Yeah. So that's what the kids did, and they had an awesome time. And something that we're doing kind of currently, so I'm kind of going away from the reporting on last year or 2 years ago, is we're working on a Mi'kmaq language adult program. And that's from Chief Norman. I have to give credit for all of this work because none of it comes from me. I'm just like managing it. When Chief Norman was like, we should do a program for adults to learn Mi'kmaq language. I was like, yeah, we should. So things taken a long time to work through, but we're working with our partners in Listowich to develop that program. And so we're again super excited about that, and being able to deliver a Mi'kmaq language program to all of our communities, sometimes virtually, sometimes in person, hybrid, just like today. And that will, I think, allow for and people are hungry. And people want to learn our language, and so we're again super excited for that. And then there's tremendous capacity built in networking and development of future enhanced opportunities in post-secondary education. So we are working on our Onu College, or Wabanaki College. Been talking about it forever. We're doing it. And looking at opening a classroom in Wegoma at Rods. So now that I've said it and it's out there on YouTube, Blair's like giving me like daggers. No, it doesn't. But no, we're really looking at opening up classrooms and allowing for lifelong learning in many of our communities, and having it kind of unrestricted, as you guys all know. I don't think any of our communities, and I could be corrected, I've been wrong once before. We don't have libraries, so we don't have anywhere for people to go if they want to use the computer, if they want to print off something, they want to read a magazine. They don't have money to buy it, and then then you gotta read it while you're waiting in line at Walmart. So we want to develop these spaces so people that, it's not just kind of like it wouldn't be always structured kind of formal learning education. But iginamasi went down, but go and every day, iginamasi. So that's what we're looking at, and we are again moving ahead with that project, and very excited and looking for your guys' support and in how we establish that. So again, I want to appreciate my manager, Janine. She lets me run amok, and so she I appreciate her patience and her guidance in the work that I do. And then Claire, I couldn't do 95% of that without Claire. Walali Claire. Shara all-time Walali, and Alex. And finance. And apparently I'm like a full-time job for somebody in finance. And apparently I'm 2 minutes over. So I thought I had the whole afternoon, but anyways, apparently I don't. So Walalio, and again, I really do appreciate everybody and the communities too. Thanks, guys.
Wally again. Thank you very much. Okay, up next. Who's up next? Gosh, I'm not sure. Okay, these are the pictures. Everybody wave. Oh, just me. Mi'kmaq language and culture. Michelle?
Chief Leroy, did you put a bid in?
Wait.
All right.
Terry?
Did you
You're
put a
next.
bid in? I thought I heard you say 500.
$50.
Okay, any questions from the online? Any questions for Anne? Oh, she left? Okay. Okay, here you go, Michelle.
I feel like I'm driving a car and I can't really see my seat is like because I'm so short. And I'm wearing heels. Imagine if I wasn't. Okay. Here's our little report. But I'm going to do a shout out to our new it's not new. We started it before COVID. Our Mi'kmaq language and culture logo. That's our logo, because everybody has a logo in their department. So we do have one as well. So we want to share it with everybody. So that's going to be our Mi'kmaq language and culture logo. There's my team. I'm going to report again on that next year, but I just love the picture because that's the very first craft I've ever finished since I started with MK in 2019. So I didn't have homework and I was finished the basket. Okay, do you switch it, Julian, or do I switch it? Okay, and here's my team, and stand up or wave. Yolanda Denny, she's the Mi'kmaq language, senior Mi'kmaq language consultant. Yay, babes. Alwyn Jador, he's the junior Mi'kmaq language consultant. Our go-to guy. Beverly Jador Babalo is the Mi'kmaq language technician. Giselle Stevens is Mi'kmaq language coordinator who makes us laugh every single day. We really appreciate her. Michael Ardeni, the Red Road coordinator. Oh, yes, he is. Because I'm wearing granny glasses. I got to take them off. And Miranda Bernard, early childhood education consultant. Sindel Knockwit. I passed Jacqueline because she's not here. So it's Jacqueline Prosper, treaty education lead, but she's not here today. Miranda, Sindel Knockwit, ECE AQI consultant. Daisy, congratulations, Robinson Gould. I'm not sure what she's going to go by. Newlywed, ECE coordinator. Tex Marshall is our manager in sports. Levi Denny is the Mi'kmaq Sports Performance Coordinator. Terry Bernard is our Mi'kmaq Language Sports Liaison. He's online. Janine Faye Denny is Sports for Social Development Coordinator. Jasmine Collins is the Sports for Social Development Coordinator as well. And our newbie is Narissa Denny. She's new to our staff. So it's Rekindling our Spirit Coordinator, Narissa Denny. So I appreciate each and every one of you. You make me laugh every day, and there's days you make me angry, but at the end of the day, we all leave laughing. So, yeah. Yeah, well, I don't want to share any stories about Giselle, but anyways. So here's our early childhood education. So this is Miranda's department, who her, Daisy, and Sindel really work hard on. So they developed a lot of primary and grade 1 cultural lesson plans. They have ongoing professional development sessions, and these are really done in the evening. As I said, hats off to your staff, hats off to people. They really appreciate this type of training. It's in the evenings because we have to accommodate the communities who we all know in the sub-crisis. So your staff is awesome. The assessment for quality improvement program, cultural and education resources for kindergarten, ongoing support for early year educators, and in progress, the Mi'kmaq facilities operating standards and guidelines. So that's in progress. So you'll see them in the communities more and more. Here's some pictures that they've done all their hard work and their fun work. And then we have our Mi'kmaq language consultant. So senior Mi'kmaq language consultant is Yolanda. So she finalizes the Mi'kmaq language kit. She began digitizing Duwakans, development of yearly work plan for the Mi'kmaq language educators. So this is a lot of stuff that the department does, along with, well, here's Alwyn, the Mentor Apprentice Program, with the Canadian Heritage, the final report right up from Mentor Apprentice results, the 12-week online language lessons, and our Mi'kmaq language summer camp. Our staff do a lot of stuff that's not reflected in the, I shouldn't say not reflected, they do other stuff as well, which is amazing. So don't think that this is all they do. They do a lot more, and they do a lot of cross-cultural department work. So we work with Janine's team, we work with Alan's team, we work with, you know, we all work together as a whole. Okay, the next one. And here's our Red Road, Michael R. Summer employment from June to September. That's always ongoing. That's an awesome, awesome project. It's still going. It's been there since, I don't even know what year it really started. Loretta would know that. Jigamagan with the ECE, networking communities. He does a lot of Zoom on traditional teachings with communities, sweetgrass picking and teachings. With the Red Rose students, we have the Keji Camp fire teachings, Bear River Harvesters Gathering, eel skinning, gutting, and cooking. And our cultural camp was, Red Road Cultural Camp was from March 11 to 13. So we have a lot of community projects on the go with Red Road. And you can see in the little tiny writing, Wamatcook school ceremonies, Bear River dance teachings, drum awakening ceremonies, drum making, jigamagan, making video, picto landing, Unuisultine storytelling, elders teachings in Bear River. That's with Albert, Lawrence, and Lottie. So Red Road does a lot, and too, Michael R does a lot more than what's written there. He's a pretty busy guy. And we're always telling him he cannot move to Bear River. We do not allow him to live there. So we're okay. I think I got one more, and I'm going to invite my colleague. Here's some pictures that what he did, and I'm going to invite my colleague Tex to come, and he can do. Oh, treaty education is really quick. Jacqueline couldn't be here, so she has a lot of stuff doing with the province with treaty education. Her review, her strategic plan is completed with the province. She's done treaty education curriculum framework. with their partners. New classroom resources are going to be released from Treaty 8, grade 4 to 12. The second edition of George Paul's Honor Song launched in the community of Pictou, and here are her list of her partners. So, and now I'm going to invite Tex to come and do his presentation. Well, audio. Oh, okay, but keep it.
Eskay, Michelle, madam nakmil no, really, wasn't it? So how much time do I have? 2 minutes. Als je wat easy there, we not again though. Anyway, I just want to express my sincerest gratitude for MK and just partnering with Sport and Sport Canada and the province. And this is my 17th year at MK. 17 years have gone by, and it doesn't really feel like a job. It feels more fun than anything else. So just want to sincerely thank Chief Leroy, the Grand Chief, and MK Board for your continual support of our true stakeholders. I often call Mi'kmaq youth our true stakeholders. That's why we do what we do in sport. Pretty much everything focuses on them and opportunities for them. So I was tasked to highlight last year. We did this fancy 2 slides, and we got very constructive feedback from our executive director that looks really nice, but the annual assembly is about last year, not this year. So I tried to go in this morning and modify what we presented before, but basically 2021 and April 1st, moving forward, we were still in the pandemic, that nasty virus that was going around the world. So we were very restricted as what we could do. As you can imagine, sport and rec, we're pretty much hands-on, and we do activity, physical activity with the students. So we weren't able to do much. However, as the spring turned into summer and the summer turned into getting back into the fall, September of 2021, things eased up a little bit, and we were able to put on our first MK Sport Girls Leadership Camp at Kina'matnewey. And I want to congratulate once again and thank Janine and Jasmine and our sports staff, of course, for putting on such a terrific event for girls from our communities. Oh, and Giselle was there, so we can't do it without Giselle. So, but seriously, Giselle was an important part of the camp. So that turned into renewed spirit going into the fall, and COVID was easing up, and the girls started to do multi-sport camps, and I believe we did 1 camp. So the multi-sport camps are about just what it is, different sports on an introductory skill basis for the kids, an opportunity to try sports. They tried it before, to trying to renew the spirit in it. So we did a camp, and then boom, COVID hit again. So we were once again restricted. But fortunately, a year ago, we were able to put on our annual MK Sports Summit, where people from our communities came to Halifax and took part in training and presentations. And we were also able to do once again the Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Sport Hall of Fame. And we had some inductees, one of which is Chad Denny from Eskisoni, Alistair Matthews from Member 2, and Robert Bernard from Wagoma. And the late, great Bernie Denny, also from Eskisoni, were inducted into the Hall of Fame. So after that event, again, COVID was tugging on us once more. And as a team, we looked at innovative, creative ways to engage and do initiatives and activities. So our staff were able to do elder engagement sessions online, which is no easy task, as we know, because not all elders will get on a computer or laptop and go online. But those sessions were very, very effective. They were very informative and they were engaging to our elders. So much so that we did a follow-up one. We did two, so that I know of. So we engaged the MPALs and did a retreat with them. With very great sessions. We still did canoe kayak. So moving forward, we also had the Indigenous and Black Coach Mentorship Program through a collaboration with Sport Nova Scotia. And we were very pleased to partner with Sport NS and Mark Smith, the director of Sport Nova Scotia, where coaches from our communities, Mi'kmaq communities, were able to get involved in the mentorship program. And they all completed the program, by the way. So we also did CanFit certification, which was primarily online also. We had 58 participants. And of course, the leadership camp at Keji. We contributed to Unamagi Snurf and snowboarding and also Unugaman programs in the mainland area. So we're able to contribute to that. We have a collaboration with all organizations within Sport Nova Scotia. That's PSOs, provincial sports. Our coach, performance coordinator Levi, organized an A coaching summit. And also we have NCCP locker training. So we did the best we could with what we had in the face of the pandemic once again. So right now, currently we have a renewed spirit. I find that kind of annoying when you have to say next slide, but I got no choice. I have to. I don't know how to operate this remote here. So, so going forward, of course, you know that little event that's going to happen here in July of 2023. So we will have over 5,000 athletes that will be converging on Jibuktu. And we also will have a team Mi'kmaq Nova Scotia once again. Mission staff and coaches are selected and in place, and we will have 345 participants, our largest contingent ever. So it's something I'm very proud of, and I want to thank Levi and Terry and all of the team for coming together and raising the bar and striving for our best. And it's going to be the best ever. So another project that we have that I was able to do a proposal for to Sport Canada through SSDIC, which basically is sport for social development in Indigenous communities. So Stream 3, as you know, Janine, Jasmine, and Terry are hired through Stream 1. Through Stream 3 deals with missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And I was able to get a proposal in titled Rekindling Our Spirit Project. So I have to give props to my wife, Janine. She's the one that suggested that title. It wasn't me. I'm not very innovative or creative, but she came up with that title, Rekindling Our Spirit. So with NAID coming in July, and a lot of you may not know the dark side about Jibuktu in a contemporary sense, but Halifax is actually the gateway for the drug and sex trade. And that is one of my greatest fears, that with this event coming, that one of our girls or youth would be abducted or lured into the sex trade when the games happen. So I decided I need to try to do something about it. So this is what that project deals with. So Narissa graciously accepted the challenge to do that project as coordinator, and she'll be going into your schools and communities or coming together for events for your schools and communities and the girls to teach them about education on being lured or abducted into the sex or drug trade. And she'll also be doing, not her herself, but she'll be hiring facilitators to do self-defense martial arts training, so that we're at least trying to do something about preventing that from happening. I'm very pleased about that. So Moving on to the MK school sports events. Of course, we've been idle for a couple of years because of that nasty C word, but we're returning this year. We're actually meeting with your phys ed teachers Thursday evening. It was very challenging to get them all together, but it's going to be virtual. It's in the evening, so no subs required. So I'll be meeting with them and we'll do up the schedule and we'll get events going again. And our multi-sport camps will continue. So that's basically in a nutshell 21-22, and we're into 22-23 now. And I'm kind of confused about the next time I report to you guys, but Blair will help me figure it out. I just want to take this opportunity. I don't normally do this, but I want to congratulate my colleagues, Rebecca Sirocco, Shelton Google, and for about a half a second, I'm going to pat myself on the back that we all completed our master's degrees this past summer. So I'm finally going to get to slide that ever elusive X ring on my finger. And I just want to say it's important to honor each other for our accomplishments. You know, it's something that we as Ulnu Mi'kmaq sometimes fail to do. And I had real reservations about, no pun intended, but well, bringing that forward. But like I said, pat myself half a second on the back because it was very hard to go to school and work full time, and also to have a very high maintenance, high needs child in Colton, which you all know. It was a very great struggle for me, and that X ring is very expensive, but I will wear it with pride. Walalio.
Okay, well, all the texts. Oh,
Sorry, I forgot to do 2 slides. Mi'kmaq language technician, which is Beverly Babalochidor, and she does a lot, as you can tell, and she does a lot of our resources, and we count on her for everything. So she does the Mi'kmaq language classes. It started, it's ongoing, awakening our Talk Bear River language participants, and is continued into the fiscal year. Language classes with Annapolis Valley. The Waltez book is completed, ready for print. Diane Friesen worked on the printed verbs and how they function, use the stem associated with a doer or a patient role. Some suffix attached to different classes and roots. And they've inspired me to look into book 2, Conjugated Resource Book, which has 66 verb cards investigating the negative X, munebao. Is not munebao when. Completed picture dictionary ready for print. She distributed 500 copies of verb and body cards to the students in the Escazone Elementary Middle Schools for students to have their own copy. She has cards that entail the body, the verb, animate and inanimate cards, conjugated resource book, and months of the year. Posters were all distributed to the communities, MK schools, and provincial Mi'kmaq teachers. PD refreshers upon request through Zoom for several communities and schools, translation supports for teachers, and ongoing support for teachable materials for the language teachers. And she's also a good support to us. So she's awesome. And here is our favorite, my favorite is Giselle, the Mi'kmaq language coordinator. 4 networking sessions completed for the Mi'kmaq language teachers. Language planning for 6 communities, language inventory lists from the communities, land-based learning by Terry Denny, translation services, the junior mentor apprentice book, baby books created by the MK Advisory Committee. And we will talk about the Mi'kmaq language adult immersion next year, but that's ongoing. Okay, well, audio.
well, Michelle. Also to our Mi'kmaq Language Committee, I know there's a lot of work been done there and working with this team. I just want to acknowledge them as well, and congratulations also for those who got their masters, and looking forward, Tex and your team to work with you and with upcoming games next summer. So I'm excited for that. Back to our agenda, we have let me guide you. Help or help desk. ACFNHD, is that the one? Okay.
Okay, so my department is Atlantic Canada's First Nation Help Desk. So just to go through some of the highlights from our 2021-2022 year. So again, I'm Alan McKenzie, Director of the Department, for those of you who don't know me. So the Help Desk is essentially MK's IT department. So we serve both education and health, not just in Nova Scotia, but right across the Atlantic region, so all 4 Atlantic provinces. We have 25 schools and 8 daycare centers. So 14 of those schools are in Nova Scotia. The rest are New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, and Labrador. As well, we support the health centers in each of our 33 Atlantic communities, and there's 8 treatment centers that we support as well. So my team has 10 in total, 7 located in Membertou, and then we've got 2 on mainland Nova Scotia and 1 in New Brunswick. So our main services that we provide on the education side are fiber connectivity and network security, tech integration, support and training for schools, mobile device management, and the Technology Standards Project. So I'll go through a little bit more detail on each of those elements. So just to give you an idea, the Atlantic First Nation Fiber Network has there's 80 sites that are connected to our network across 32 communities. So what we have is there's a fiber line that runs to each community, and then once it enters the community, it's owned and operated by the help desk, by MK, and it's owned by the community. So it's a very unique arrangement that was negotiated long before I took over the department, but it allows for us to manage it independently, and it allows, I think, more importantly, for companies like Bell not to charge us for each of the sites that we have. So let's say, for example, we have our fiber connectivity enters Wamacook, and we have the school, the health center, the band office are all part of the network. If another site was to be added, Bell can't charge us again for that site because we pay 1 fee to Bell per community. So it allows us to really broaden our reach for the network. So as you can see, almost half of our network is made up of health sites, education, and then we have, I think, around 13 or so band offices that are part of the network. The traffic on the network is separated by health administration and education, so it's very secure and allows our team to enforce settings and policies based on whether it's a health site or an education site. So across over the past year, we were able to upgrade 32 over 33 communities. The only one that we haven't been yet to upgrade to 200 megabits per second is up in Natwashish, Labrador, and that's because of the remoteness of the community, but we're certainly working towards that. All MK communities were included in that upgrade, and it's what we would consider pure fiber. It's that 200 speed is both upload and download speed. Early on in the 2021-22 year, we some of our communities actually, everyone received a speed upgrade of at least double, and there were some that received a speed upgrade of a factor of 7. So it was quite the upgrade. With the network, we feel like we're often shooting towards a moving target, because the needs are, as we push, as more technology gets used in our communities, the demand on the network is increased. So it's up to us to meet that demand. Our core network was also upgraded to 10 gigabits per second, which allows for further expansion across the network. We also, with the help of Dave Peters, we were also able to deploy outdoor access points across all MK communities, which did come in handy during at-home learning sessions, where students, if they didn't have connectivity at home, were able to go to the school and go to the school, like the school parking lot when schools were closed, and access that connection if they didn't have a connection at home. Over the past, in the 2021-22 year, there were 2 new schools added to the network: Buckingeg School and Annapolis Valley First Nation School, in addition to some other health sites. Technology integration initiatives. That's mainly Kim McKinnon and James Young. So they they're a great team and are doing lots of things, but I tried my best to summarize it into one slide. I started a number of years ago the technology integration lead team, which was at least one representative, teacher representative from every school to come together and to collaborate with us. I felt like when I took over my role as director that I hadn't really utilized those teachers as much as I could have, and James and Kim have done a great job to reinvent that team and kind of get the most out of that team. They actually got together this past weekend to collaborate and learn from each other, and of course all the schools will stand to benefit. Ongoing professional development using technology to support all learners in all subject areas. Another area that I felt like I wasn't able to meet the needs for, and I think Kim and James are doing a much better job that I was able to, is the area of assistive technology. There's lots out there, and the needs are very diverse. And I think again they've done a great job to work with teachers to figure out how technology may help to enhance learning for all learners. Over the past year, we also purchased subscriptions to support advanced training and learning. And just to mention a few: Raz Plus, Kahoot, Newsleamatic, GimKit, Edwin. They also circulate, as well with the help of Julian as well, the Tech Integration newsletter, which gets circulated monthly to teachers and principals. The Technology Standards Project, which some of you are familiar with. This is a project that has been actually initially it was an idea that Darren Gulu came to MK about, and I'm happy that it's coming to life. It's as Julian can attest, it's still evolving, but it's that's essentially a framework and a collection of resources that will work to support and guide schools with technology implementation. So over the last Julian put together a great video, which I'm going to actually maybe we'll show the video now, if you could do that, and then I'll go through the last few main points.
Mi'kmaq, Kina'matnewey, and Atlantic Canada's First Nation Help Desk are launching our framework and collection of resources that support and guide schools with technology implementation. The standards are for First Nation schools in the Atlantic region, and they have been designed to be used by the communities themselves without our oversight. If you want support, or you want to share information with us, we welcome you to do so, but it's not a requirement. Mi'kmaq, Kina'matnewey's technology implementation standards will allow schools to achieve and maintain high levels of technology implementation, and will be updated every 2 years to ensure that our schools are able to be leaders in technology implementation and use these skills to promote Indigenous language and culture. The framework consists of 5 sections, and these are reflected in the surveys. They are devices, hardware, software, multimedia, and education. We have made a separate video about these sections you can watch if you want to know more. If your school wants to use the technology implementation standards, you will want to create a team of staff members to start learning about the standards. The standards are provided with an overview document for your team, as well as a document for school staff to help them learn about the standards. The next step is to perform the school and teacher surveys. In your first year, there will be a lot of information to gather, so it may take several days. Once complete, you'll be able to set goals and use the resources provided with the standards to support attaining your goals. At this time, we have these resources under development. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can contact techstandards@ginu.ca.
And that's no worries. Thanks for that, Julian. And that's why precisely why video is so powerful, because nobody could have, it's a succinct way of capturing the text standards within 2 minutes. So just to give you an idea, in 21-22, it was piloted with 3 communities, 2 in Nova Scotia, 1 in New Brunswick. There was 3 advisory group meetings, 5 new resources added, and to date, or I guess at that point, 8 communities are using the standards, and it was launched to all communities and available to all communities in March, so the end of the 2022 year. And I encourage you to email techstandards@ginu.ca or reach out directly to Julian if you'd like to use the standards and are currently doing so. It's optional. It's there for communities. Okay, in terms of mobile device management, we are currently managing 3,200 plus iPads with the help of the communities themselves. 1,200 Chromebooks, 600 MacBooks. All that's done remotely. A lot of our communities were fortunate to have somebody that manages the devices on site, but if you aren't fortunate to have that type of person on staff, we will certainly do it for you. So that's been a great project that we've been able to, I guess, help you from afar as much as we can, and it allows us to. It's a lot more secure. If devices are lost or stolen, we can use the system to access those devices. And more on the health side. Video conferencing and telehealth. Over the last year, we launched Zoom for Healthcare across the health and treatment centers. Zoom for Healthcare was chosen because it's compatible with the existing video conference hardware in the communities. It aligns with provincial health authority standards, and it's certainly the widely Zoom itself is the most widely used video conferencing platform around. Data residency in Canada, so all the traffic is all maintained in Canada, and with the Zoom for Healthcare package, there's enhanced security features that are more of a requirement for health side. Also on the health side, we're launching the Atlantic First Nation Health Hub in partnership with First Nation Inuit Health Branch. So that's a new online platform or intranet that will connect First Nation Health Center teams across the Atlantic provinces. So it's an intranet, so it'll be something that staff at health centers will log into and can access resources. So one of the challenges with some of our smaller health centers are they may only have one in each of these health centers. So this allows them to collaborate and to access some of the same resources. So we were fortunate to hire a health hub coordinator over the past year, Blossom Labilawa from Middle River First Nation. And she's leading content development and maintenance at the site. That'll be launched at some point later in 2022, 2023. And this is my team over the past year. In addition to Blossom, we were fortunate to add one more member, Jeff McNeil. But I would just want to take this opportunity to thank my team. I feel like I have the easy job because they work so well together. They work well independently, and so hopefully, and I'm sure we'll continue to do that. So thanks very much to my team, and thank you for listening.
Thanks, Alan. Well, okay. Loretta. Up next, Loretta. the fun part, talking about money. Everyone's favorite.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. Okay. Where's okay. I worked hard on this. Don't want to miss out on my cover page. Well, I want to say welcome to everyone. And I would like to echo Blair's comments in that it's so nice to be here face to face with you all. And there's a lot of new faces. So, and however, when I walked in the room today, I felt a void. Did anyone else feel some kind of void or something was missing in the room today? John Jerome. I really miss not having John Jerome here. He's the light of the party. John Jerome is. I miss him at work too, I have to say. I miss his wisdom. Don't you tell him that. His head is going to swell again. He'll have double alpha male on his door house. Anyways, I would like to welcome you all and to nice to see the chiefs, the technicians, and also everybody online that unfortunately I cannot see at that moment, but I know you're there and you're paying attention, and that's great. Okay, so basically the purpose of my presentation today is twofold. First of all, I want to give you a picture of our achievements towards our operational goal in finance. And secondly, I would like to provide you an overview of our financial performance with regards to the 21-22 fiscal year. Without further ado, we will move to the first slide. So on the screen are the successes, and there's lots of them, and I'm not taking all the credit for them because most of the credit goes to our finance team. We have done a lot of work on our new accounting system. As the board would know, and our team at MK would know, in February, the last quarter of 2021, we implemented a new accounting system at MK. NetSuite is the name of the system. And during the 21-22 fiscal year, we moved to full implementation of the NetSuite accounting system for MK. We had our regular growing pains, regular little complaints. However, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, the team feels also that we've made great strides with NetSuite. We're not there yet where we would like to do. It's a very intricate program, which has a lot to offers, and we're still harvesting the fruits or the capabilities of the NetSuite system. So here are some of the highlights of what we've done in 21-22 with NetSuite. We've created reports that meet the need of MK, management, board of directors, and our other employee groups. We've built capacity in that we've trained 100% of our employees on NetSuite with some basic training, and we're now moving on to more training that will meet their own individual needs, I should say. Thirdly, As of the end of the year, we had resolved 100% of the issues with NetSuite. Now, more came up, but we will resolve those as well, I can guarantee you. We've also developed 4 new policies, and these policies are put in place to protect the interest of MK, all of the organization. So we reach 100% of our goal with those first initiatives. The last initiative, which is now almost 100% implemented, is electronic fund transfers. We basically, within the next week or two, we will be paying 100% of our employees travels and other expenses via electronic fund transfers. And we are starting to gather information from our board of directors to do the same. So we are very proud of where we are currently with EFTs, and also very proud of our achievements towards our operational goal for the 21-22 fiscal year. Okay. Okay. The second part of my presentation deals with how well did we do financially last fiscal year, for the year that ended March 31st, 2022. And I'm pleased to say that we've done extremely well. We're generating more revenues. As you may have observed from the presentations of my fellow directors, we've also implemented more programs with those dollars. So this is all really good news. Can anyone guess how much revenue MK recognized during the 21-22 fiscal year? Just in millions, like just round it up. One at a time, raise your hand, please. I heard a number that sounded like it. Good for you. Good for you. You're great. You're the closest anyways. You can add 8 million, 78 million. So I have to say before I start this presentation that there's a difference between the money that we receive in terms of grant and contribution, the cash that comes in, and the revenue that show up in the audit. The revenues that appear in the audit is the revenues that we used and we actually spend to do the work that we're supposed to do. When projects are not finished for various reasons, and the most common one over the last several years has been COVID, of course, we've ended up with money that we receive and not spent. Therefore, we have to push it over to the next year, being this year, to finish our projects. So as a non-for-profit organization, the goal is not to have a surplus at the end of the year. The goal is to try to have the bottom line as close to zero as possible. So now that you know how much money we recognize, $78 million, I'm going to try to slice that revenue and the matching expenses in different ways to show you where did the money come from, and who received it, and how it was spent. And there goes nothing. So revenues by source. So 83% of our revenues, which is the biggest share, still is. No matter how hard we try to shift away from that, it's decreasing. That percentage is decreasing as we do more business with other government departments. However, it's still the major share, 83%. Somebody said I could see my notes. I thought you did. Anyways, I don't need them. That's okay. Okay, thank you, Blair. That's the only note I need to see anyways. Okay, last fiscal year, that 83% was 88% revenues from ISK. So what's happened is that a lot more contribution funding is now part of the grant. With the most recent one being the incremental post-secondary funding that was negotiated in the budget 16-17. It used to come as a separate contribution all the time. Now it's part of the grant. So we're moving towards our goal in terms of having one-stop shopping for all of the contributions in that they are in the grant, and the bands can predict what they're going to get, and they can do long-term planning instead of having all these ad hoc contributions coming in. However, under the orange section, 14% are still contributions from ISK. Now, that has grown a little bit because we've received a lot of funding for COVID. You may recall, or the chiefs may recall, during the last quarter of the fiscal year, it was unbelievable the amount of funding that was coming in for COVID. COVID this, COVID that was all great, but there was not enough time to spend it. So a lot of it had to be deferred to this year. So you'll see that later when I present the deferred revenue slide. However, a lot of it was for COVID. A lot of that 14% was for COVID, but it was contribution. And then the other ones, the yellow, you see contribution other. A big chunk of that 2%, which is contribution other, is we're now a third-party delivery for Canadian Heritage for the ILCC program. So about 1.3, 1.4 million is the revenues for that program. So that slice grew slightly compared to last year. Provincial, the 1% provincial, well, a lot of that is the sports bilateral with the province is, I would say, one of the highest chunk of those dollars. And then we have other miscellaneous revenues. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me. The next one is revenues by program. So basically, 92% of the grant that we receive from INAC, and that hasn't changed from year to year, all goes to the communities through your funding schedule on a quarterly basis. That's what goes to the communities. And then 4% is for the First Nation Student Success Program from the grant. And then the Aboriginal Language Initiative, 2%, and then other is 2%. So as you can see, I'm slicing that $78 million we talked about earlier. And there we are, revenues by activity. That's from Nova Scotia, from the province. So basically, as I indicated earlier, the sports bilateral is about half of those revenues. So the sports bilateral with the province is $354,000 roughly annually. The reason why there's $566,000 there for 21-22, it is because of COVID, we hadn't spent all of those dollars the year before. So we had to take a lot of money into this year. And as Tex presented earlier, they've done a great job organizing activities and try to maximize the use of those fundings during the 21-22 fiscal year. And then we go to health promotion, 81,000. That 100% of those dollars goes to the communities for after school programs and nutrition in the classroom and physical activity grants. And the 158,000, that's the balance of the 310 that was received from the province for the program that Anne administers. She confused me earlier because she used different acronyms. What's the acronyms? RPL. Then treaty education, the province contributes about $95,000 towards treaty education. So that's the 95,000 plus a little bit that was deferred from the prior year to make it 113,000. Trade fair, 54,000, and other $34,000. So that's the revenues from the province, that chunk we looked at earlier. And so here is that first pie we looked at, and the provincial is that gray area. So that's the slice that I'm slicing, that I'm reslicing for you, is that 1%. The next one, let's talk about deferred revenues. So I had indicated earlier to you that basically not all the money that we receive, we spend. What we don't spend, because projects are not complete, we defer to the next year. So this money that you see there now, from the grant that we receive, As of March 31st, we still had almost $4.4 million left that we deferred to this fiscal year that we're in now. From the contribution slice, 2 million. Other miscellaneous programs, 1.3 million. So hopefully this year we'll do better. I know COVID is picking up again, but I think a lot of people have a lot of plans in place now to try to still deliver programs even in spite of possibly another pandemic. However, now, as someone mentioned earlier, with the capabilities of Zoom and virtual meeting space, we can do a lot more. There's something that people may be interested in. That's a big popular topic. That's capital. Where's our capital money? Where's the money we negotiated for our schools? Well, as of the end of March 31st, we had 25.2 million that was saved up to build our schools. And as you know, the major school project that's coming up very soon is the Eskasoni School Project. So from the capital pool, and the capital pool is the chunk that we receive with every year grant. We receive about a 1.5, 1.6 million a year with the grant. We've accumulated $10.1 million. Last year, the chiefs were successful in negotiating $15 million you saw some of these. Well, that was for the Eskasoni School. And then interest income, which was low last year because the interest rates were really low. They were about maybe 1.2%. However, the interest rates now are closer to 3.1%. So I can say that 53,450 really more than double with the rest of the capital income that we're going to be receiving this fiscal year. Wow, this is a little, I didn't know how that would look. However, my presentation will be with Julian if anybody wants to see it. But what that is shows all of the payments we've made to the communities. The blue is through from MK to grants or contributions. And in orange are the revenues that we've received that we paid to the province for provincial tuition on your behalf. So if you look here at GlueSCAP, for example, with GlueSCAP, a little over 50% of the money that we spent for them went into provincial tuition. Of course, Eskasoni, with the largest student population, they receive a huge chunk of the grant, which is $24.4 million. And again, I apologize for that slide, but if anybody wants to come and see me anytime after my presentation, I'll be more than happy to go over that with you. Yeah, that's actually hurts my eyes right now, so we'll move away from there. That's how we learn, right? Administration is our own internal operating budget. We pay the admin staff and the board, the governance, and so forth. So no surprise that the largest percentage of our expenditures goes to salary and benefits for the employees. So basically, the blue line is what was budgeted for last fiscal year. The orange line was what actually spent. And I have to say that in terms of salary and benefit expenditures, we were almost up to par to what that expense was last fiscal year for 2021 audit. And overall, the whole administration is pretty well the same. There hasn't been a lot of change in the administration expenditures at the NK over the last 2 years. The next highest one is the travel and honorarium. So I'm just going to focus on those two. They're the highest ones. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I want to say walalio to my staff, and I would like to acknowledge their hard work and to let them know how much I really appreciate their work. I feel we have a very strong team in finance, and we back each other up. And I will ask them to stand. Michelle? Jennifer, Jennifer could not attend. I'm sorry. She's probably online. She wasn't feeling well. We have Chantella. And I don't know how many of you have met Jillian. Jillian is our NetSuite baby girl type thing. She's our she's our DMK baby. She's a I don't know why I'm calling you that. I like you a lot and you're very smart, but I like them all. So anyways, so Jillian is our NetSuite administrator. And I'd say right now, she's probably the most popular one in finance. I didn't mean to embarrass you, Jillian. And we just don't do numbers in finance. We like to have fun, well, sometimes. So, but that's the extent of our fun, standing in front of the lighthouse in Piggy's Cove. That we did that during our last retreat. We celebrated the audit, which was presented in June. We had a retreat in July, and we had lobster rolls. And anyways, it was a lot of fun. So I wanted to thank you very much for your time. And like I said, if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to call me or come and see me. Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta. Okay, I believe that concludes our agenda. If there's any questions, anybody for our presenters, just reach out to them anytime. So I guess that's it. Open floor for updates. Any comments, questions out there? No? Okay, good. We're gonna do a draw now. Okay, we're gonna do a draw. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna put a number in my head. If you get it right, you win a prize. Go. Oh, I was just joking. Okay. If I'm gonna look around the room, okay, if I see like somebody staring at me, I'm gonna pick your name, okay? Like my mind will, okay?
Oh, they're going in the random.
Okay, we're gonna do the random number generator, the boring one. Okay. We should get contestants and do like a show and oh well. All right.
6.
We have some blankets and we have some fancy teapots. Native teapot. Teapot, teacup, and saucer. There are 12 prizes. All right. So we have all the names on here. Okay, Chief Norman, we're taking it. $1,000. Okay, Norman, here you go. Enjoy your tea. Have a nice cup of rose. Oh, okay, that's good. Chief Wilbur, woo! Chiefs are getting them, woo! Okay. Oh, it's the staff. Oh, staff can't play. Sorry, staff. So who won? Joanne Ellick. Okay. Up next, 18, John Frank. Take it there, John. Pick your prize. Next one, Chief Jerry. Woo! My God. Chiefs. Chief and Council only winning. Darren Gogo. Oh, 2 claps. 2 people clapped. Girlfriend. Oh. Boy band. Okay, up next.
Next one. You already did, John. John, wait, which one?
Okay, sit down, sit down. Yeah, John got it. Chief Andrea. It's right there.
Teapot. Or makeup bag.
Pick whatever. I hope I win. Chief Sit. Donna Lehman. Woo! I'll take this makeup bag. My hair products from my mohawk. 2 more. Monique. Monique. And last, Chief Carol. So I need a motion to adjourn. Middle? Yep. Closing prayer. Motion to adjourn, please. The mover, seconder. Okay, Chief Debbie, seconder. Chief Norman, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, motion carried. Now we have a closing prayer. Call upon our Grand Chief, Gisamo Norman. Okay, Chief Wilbur just donated sweet grass to everybody, right? Whoever wants it, just come get it in the front soon after the prayer.
Kaluke Nagwe. Lalio del Juda. Headaway, I'm Sedona, and Major. Our joking. Yeah, as it might. That way they were upset by it. Yeah, I'm good, loyal. Let's see it. Creator, thank you for this day you have given us and all the creations you had provided. Without it, life would not be possible. We thank you. And also, thank you for watching over us and guiding us. We thank you for all our ancestors' teachings of wisdom, patience, honesty, love, courage, truth, and bravery, especially bravery. So we still are brave in this pandemic among us. I pray that you continue to protect us. And we thank you for all our ancestors' traditional teachings. Like our ancestors done, they made before us. I ask you to continue to protect us, our communities, our elders, our families, our children, as they are the future. Protect them today and days to come. Amen. Father,
Well, Gisamo. And thank you all, and have a nice day. Enjoy your evening. Safe travels for those traveling.